Hey, everybody, it's Tommy Canale, and welcome back to Before the Lights podcast, the show that tells you how they made their mark. He's the owner of Day One Ambition and Wrapped in Hope. He has garnered 2 congressional letters of acknowledgement and is the author of the book, Mental Hope. There is no surgery for depression. He is on a mission to help other people evolve through hope. A Las Vegas native and a mental hope influencer, please welcome to the show, Brandarius Johnson. Brandarius, welcome to Before the Lights. How are you, my man?
Thank you for the invite. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am well. Excited to have you on the show. We're going to start way back in your life and get to where you are today. You grew up in a house without a male figure. I want you to tell my listeners about growing up in that environment, having a negative attitude and being deviant.
Okay. So, I grew up in a household. It was my 3 sisters, my mother, my grandmother, and I. And the best way I can describe it was kind of like me doing what I wanted when I wanted to, until my granddad came into town, which was probably once or twice throughout the year. And I just kind of felt like, just reflecting on all of my buddies, everybody had like a curfew when the street lights came on. And I always, felt like, man, I'm the last one to go home all the time. Why is that? Because I just simply didn't follow the rules. And, that led from just being outside to just not listening within the constraints of the home. But that's how it was. It just kind of felt like I could do whatever I wanted to, when I wanted to. And, that's how it was.
Looking back then, where do you think your life was headed at that time?
And you know what? They say the 2 most famous places, you either going to jail or you're going to die. And, not because I was, a super bad kid or involved in anything dangerous, just I didn't have anything that I was, aiming at. There was no structure or authority that I respected. So, what comes with that. It wouldn't be long before I found something or something found me that could be detrimental.
True. You end up attending Cimarron Memorial High School here in Las Vegas. You played football. You had a passion for the game. But before we get into the football side, what kind of student were you?
So I was definitely more of an athlete than a student when I was younger. I had these big dreams and aspirations of playing, Division I football and, professional football, but I didn't have the same passion and fire for education. So I was, at best, a below average student. I think I graduated with like a 1.9 GPA maybe. I didn't have a real relationship with academia, and it reflected me being ineligible, going into my sophomore season due to some fights, and my grades just reflected ineligibility, and that was something else I had to deal with.
So on the football field then, even though you're ineligible, when you did get to play, who is Brandarius Johnson as a football player?
Brandarius Johnson, hardworking, relentless. I was described as a guy that has a motor that doesn't stop. I wasn't much of a scheme guy, hence I connect that to my efforts of being a student and learning anything. So, I was ambitious. I played defensive end. My job was to get off the ball and go get the ball. And then on the offensive side, I played tackle. If it was a number in the opposite jersey, my goal was to block it and move it out the way, and that's what I did. So. You
just had a hard time then combining that passion for football to the classroom at that time.
100%. I really didn't. I guess I didn't believe how important it was until I became ineligible, and then after coming back and playing my junior and senior season, it was like you don't qualify to go to a 4-year school. So it was like, I now have to go to a junior college. And then when I got to my junior college, that's when education became a priority for me. And it wasn't just 100% because of because I had to go to a junior college. It was also because I got injured right out the gate. So now it's like, football could realistically be taken away at any moment. You have to fall back on your education. And, my first year in college, I made the dean's list, and I maintained it for the duration of my, collegiate career. And I ended up with an academic scholarship as well as an athletic scholarship. So School of Hard Knocks gave me the education to, make my education a priority.
You learned then that academics comes before athletics. You go from Saddleback College to Fort Lewis College. You graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's degree in sociology and human services. And as you said, once you got into the JC route, you realized how important academics were going to be for you to be able to play football. Even though you had an injury-plagued football career, what's really, when you look back at it, it's the academics that you're using more today than you are the athletics.
100%. And I would say it's kind of, they both go hand in hand more than I realize. And that's what I kind of push to the youth now and the family. There's so much controversy around college and people not needing it. But I think more than anything, school and college, teach you how to be resourceful, teach you how to think, it teach you how to commit to the long haul, teach you how to work diligently and manage your time. Athletics teaches you all of that, but in a different way. You got to manage your time. You got to get up. You got to go to bed. You got to take care of your body. You got to eat right. You got to sleep right. And then you have to study whatever sport it is that you're playing. So when you think about student athletes, that's essentially what it is. You have to become a student of whatever sport you're playing, because if not, you're at a disadvantage. And that was another thing that I learned at college. When I got to Saddleback, I was maybe 190 pounds soaking wet playing DN. So, at the collegiate level, that's tiny. But, with my first injury, it afforded me the opportunity to sit down, to eat, to put some size on. And, it worked in my favor. However, when I transitioned to Fort Lewis, I had another moment where it's like people on campus acknowledged me as just a football player. And that right there did something to me. From that moment, I realized I was more than just a football player. I was a person. And I had a purpose that was beyond, the football field. So, all of those things that I learned throughout my journey, things that I want to instill into kids, before, they have to go through some of the roadblocks that I went through.
Listeners, I want you to go to the show notes and click the link to get your hands on Brandarius's book, Mental Hope, There Is No Surgery for Depression. I've read it. It's an excellent read. It will make you stop and think a little bit and also give you a new perspective on maybe on some things you're struggling with. And I want to start getting into some of the things in that book, Brandarius. You're a survivor of suicide. What led to this mindset that you thought about taking your own life?
Yeah. So a little bit about that and the concept of it too. My run-ins with anything related to mental illness or suicide were just nothing more than just being overwhelmed, as a college kid and feeling like there was nowhere to turn. And then more importantly, becoming a suicidal survivor to the loss of my first love. She actually completed suicide. And that's what, started my advocacy, June 27th to 2014. But as far as, my own personal experience with it, I could relate it back to just, being overwhelmed as a college student in another state, hundreds of miles away from home, overwhelmed with school, the pressures of being a college athlete on scholarship, just coming to a roadblock where you're like, man, not that I ever really wanted to die. It was more so I just wanted some silence. I just wanted some peace. And, by the grace of God, I ended up, walking across oncoming traffic. I got to the other side, didn't get hit by a car. I walked back. I'm like, it ain't my time. I went to the locker room, talked to my coach. We're getting ready to go play, a school that was about 3 or 4 hours away. I was told to get my bag and get on the bus. And that was the extent of it for me, and I realized at that moment that suicide, I believe for a lot of people is, an act in the moment. You always hear people say it's a temporary solution. A permanent solution to a temporary problem. And, I believe in that. I believe in the act of impulse. And that's why I advocate for people to just, live every day as day one. Whatever happened is behind us and tomorrow may never come. So being in the present moment is the best place for us to be. And I learned that through my own personal experiences.
You mentioned that you lost your first love, a very close friend of yours, to suicide in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first thoughts when you found out, being that you're a survivor of suicide?
I just, it didn't really become, I mean, that's when it became real for me at that moment. Like suicide is not just something that's talked about, it's something that happens. And I kind of related to, the information that my coach, when I tore my meniscus in my knee, just kind of dwelling and, feeling low. My coach is like, B, what's wrong? I'm like, this is crazy. And it's like, B, this happens every day to athletes around the world. What's crazy is it happened to you. And that's kind of what I felt about the suicide. I knew in that moment I wasn't the first person to experience it, and I wouldn't be the last person to experience it. However, I made the personal commitment from that day forward to advocate, to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention. And that's what I took from it. That moment when I found out to now, the fire hasn't stopped burning, and I doubt it ever will.
What was Brandarius's darkest moment then?
In that moment?
In your life?
Now I think I've had a few darkest moments, and I can, attach them to, one, just losing my grandmother in 2021. That was a very dark moment. Probably one of the scariest things I ever imagined has happened. Losing Howard, 21, 22-year-old, college student, losing somebody that I thought that I would marry and build a family with. That was an extremely dark moment. I had other dark moments just being raised in a house full of women, watching my mom work, 16 to 18-hour days. Those were dark. And those lead to, moments of feeling hopeless. When you feel hopeless, that's as close to darkness as you can get, to my opinion. So, and having my injuries, tearing up both of my knees back-to-back years, in pursuit of a scholarship. I had so many different, situations in my life that point back to dark moments. However, they all, led me to another place of reflection and perseverance and building character. And now those are the stories that I show to people from around the world, because I can relate to many different places of darkness. And I can also relate to finding the light and, pulling myself up by the bootstraps.
You mentioned every day is day one. And when you lost your friend in 2014, one of the ways you overcame the tragedy was you're going to have this burning desire to help others and bring awareness to suicide and mental illness and mental health. You also talk about purpose, resilience, faith, hope, and consistency. Where did these 5 words come from you that you resonated so deeply that you messaged these in all your talks?
So they came over time, and it came to me like a puzzle. Over the last 8 years of speaking, of connecting with people, number one was purpose. The world wouldn't spin the same without you. That message came to me about circa, I want to say 2018. I was working at a mental health agency, and I read a suicide note from a 12-year-old girl. And that just made me like that. I sat to myself and I said, there has to be a way I can communicate purpose to every person in the world, regardless of, where they come from or the language they speak. That message came out as the world wouldn't spin the same without you. So when I found out that, my girl had passed away, what I said to myself was, yesterday is gone. Like, I couldn't change what happened. And the way I felt, I wasn't sure if it would be a tomorrow for me. So all I have is, day one. And that philosophy carried me for years. And I started seeing other people gravitate towards it. The faith. My first brand was driven by faith. A lot of people gravitated towards that one. The only reason I went away from faith is because in the school sector, when they hear faith, they're associated with religion. I didn't want to have to fight that battle. So that's when I made the transition to day one ambition. But I always knew that faith and hope were both close to me. And ultimately, in times of trial, I know I got to go within. And I have belief that, I can overcome any obstacle that I'm faced with. So that's where those two came into effect. And then, the hope, that's my personal, mission to help other people evolve. That's the acronym of hope to me. And that's why I titled the book Mental Hope. And, the mental hustle continues. That was inspired by Nipsey Hussle, whose brand is built around the concept of a marathon, the ultimate test of resilience and endurance. So for me, it's like the mental hustle continues, because I feel like regardless of what you accomplish in your life or what you don't accomplish, you'll never get to a place in your life where you are done working or, you've reached the limit of your growth or the capacity that you could possibly reach. until you die. And I don't need, and I tangle with that because I believe your legacy will then carry. So I think the work is forever. And, you know, I just realized over the last 8 years and doing presentations, you know, there's so many different places of reference in my life where people could engage and relate to. So those became my 5 pillars. And, you know, I built presentations and I have stories from different parts of my life and different people that I've met that kind of help me, you know, paint the metaphor of each one of those pillars and how, you know, people can take that and utilize it to go from breakdown to breakthrough.
I want to have a message to all the listeners out there that may know somebody and maybe you are struggling is simply this. Don't be silent. Reach out to friends, family, relatives, a neighbor, because people will listen if you just open up and ask for help and reach out to get the resources that are out there. There are numerous resources if you are struggling. So please, if you're hearing this, don't be silent. Open up, say something to somebody, and get the help that you deserve. Brandarius, you have your clothing brand, Day One Ambition, that's been built on resilience, unity, and ambition. And it's to make positive influences across the world, what you're doing. You have a couple of these slogans. The world wouldn't spin the same without you. Mental hustle continues. And every day is day one. Talk about the clothing brand, the products you offer, and the services that you provide.
So in a nutshell, I put together the products, the shirts, the books as a way for me to share, you know, share my heart, share my story, without having to be in a position where I know I can't be everywhere at once. So the world wouldn't spin the same without you, though my introduction to that, it was inspired by someone that was in a mental crisis. It's also a token of appreciation and acknowledgement. So for every parent out there, you know, your life, the life of your kids would be completely changed if you weren't there. You know, some of us, you know, have friends and businesses that cannot go on without us. And that's what it's all about. No, I mean, even some people feel so connected to their sports team that they feel like something is wrong when they lose. And that's what it's all about, being able to, one, show people that they have a purpose and they matter, and two, encouraging people to find the things in their life that brings value and making it known. And I have a personal goal of just, you know, telling as many people as I can that you have a purpose. And that shirt, you know, I like to tell myself I'm not selling shirts. I'm more so pushing and cultivating the message, because chapter 1 of my book is Born with a Purpose. It goes hand in hand with the world wouldn't spin the same without you. And that goes into the services I could provide, where I can go into any company, organization, or school and do a workshop outside of just telling my story, but doing a workshop and creating an atmosphere that encourages transparency and vulnerability. And that right there, I believe, will enforce unity. It'll enforce school. That's, you know, it'll improve school culture and school climate. So, you know, I just dedicated myself to creating products that are timeless and resources that people can use to grow.
How can listeners, what's the website to get their hands on a shirt or a sweatshirt?
So day1ambition.com, spelled DAY, the number 1, ambition.com, or Instagram, Day One Ambition. And if that doesn't work, just put Brandarius Johnson in Google and all of my information should pop up there. And, you know, just reach out. I would love to connect with you and continue to grow hope.
I'll put links in the show notes, listeners, so you can go to Day One Ambition and to BrandariusJohnson.com and get connected with him there. And I'll also put a link to his Instagram page as well. Brandarius, you have talked about getting ahead of people. So talk about before trauma destroys the future.
I think it just it reiterates the fact that we need to take a proactive approach opposed to reactive approach. You know, and that's, you know, the principle I live my life on, opposed to taking it to the world, opposed to letting the world take it to you. So I get up every day and follow a regimen that promotes growth. I try not to sit still and dwell on things. And I feel like if we collectively agree on moving positive energy, we'll accomplish it. If not, there's more than enough forces that are willing to overcome humanity, positive energy, and anything else that's meant for growth. So, you know, that's how I feel about it. And I think it takes collectively a generation of people of all people, all backgrounds, all ethnicities, all cultures to come together for the greater good.
September 2020, you received the attention of over 40,000 people across the world by running 100 miles to raise awareness for those battling mental illness. Now you're looking at going from 100 miles to 351 miles, and you're going to do this Hope Marathon in honor of your grandmother passed away at 351. Talk about this new chapter of going from 100 miles to 351.
Yeah, okay. So Hopeathon 351, is just to do that. As mentioned, I ran 100 miles in 2020 in 10 days for mental health awareness. We garnered about 40,000, the attention of 40,000 people globally. And going into this next run, I wanted to make it something more engaging. Honored to have had the opportunity to talk to you about it. The significance of 351, means to go out and complete everything you're supposed to. My grandmother passed at 3:51 p.m. December 6th of 2021. And when I went and looked at the significance of the number and seeing that it meant to go out and complete everything you're supposed to, I knew that it was a message for me. And, when I lost Hawa, the last thing she said to me was keep speaking. So now I feel like, both of my, earth angels, whenever I come to a place where maybe question what I'm doing or not so sure what I'm doing is the way I'm supposed to be going, I hear keep speaking, go complete what you're supposed to. So now I know, regardless of how I feel, the message is to keep going and complete this mission of helping other people evolve. And, I want to attach it to people who've lost someone to suicide, people who are dealing with, substance abuse, people who are, celebrating their sobriety every day, domestic violence, poverty, obesity, whatever the obstacle is for people, I want to run with them in mind. And I want to connect with people from all over the place. And, going to be starting that up probably early February with the goal to complete the 351 miles by May 25th. So, that's coming up relatively quickly.
100 days, 3.51 miles each day. I'm going to run one of them with you at least for sure. Maybe a couple. I like to run, so who knows? Brandarius, you also have this Hope Walk that you do in September. Bring my listeners up to speed on what that's all about.
The Walk and Talk, Run for Hope. It was a spinoff off the 100-mile run in 2020. And, my team and I decided to do a walk and talk once a month throughout the pandemic, where we invited families, friends to come out. We had a restaurant, IDK Craft Kitchen here in Las Vegas, that would sponsor pizzas for our attendees. And, coming out of the pandemic, we officially made that an event in 2022, September 11th to be exact. That's Howard's birthday. So that was our inaugural event this past September. And it's just pretty much an opportunity to come out and create that atmosphere again where people can walk, meet new people, be a part of this, this mental health resource we have building with My Heart to Give nonprofit organization. And it's something that, we plan to do every year.
Hopefully it'll grow and go to different cities and different states as the years go on.
Yes, sir. So everything that I've done here in Vegas, my mindset would always to act local, but think global.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that we've done here is something that we can do virtually anywhere. We can have walking talks at schools. Schools can have these as fundraisers or ways to engage the staff, parents, and student body. So there's a plethora of ways that schools can engage me. I've also had other organizations, book me to host 3Ks and 5Ks. So that's been pretty cool. And it all just reiterates just being resilient, keep going, keep pushing for what you believe in, and you don't know where, opportunities will come from.
You have mentored at alternative schools. You've worked with youth in the correctional system, and now you have something on the horizon about helping now in a curriculum with schools.
After I wrote my book, Mental Hope, and, experiencing the amount of people that reached out from all over the place to know my story, my team felt that it was appropriate to write a curriculum. So we put together a 12-week study guide. It's a social emotional learning program that goes with my book, Mental Hope. It's called Be the Hope, which is a personal and global call to action to help other people evolve. It's a mindset. It's built for encouraging school culture and climate. And we feel that it can be utilized in campuses across the world. And we're just now about to roll it out with the city of Las Vegas in a partnership where I'll be teaching my curriculum and screen print program. So kind of combined in mental health awareness and social entrepreneurship. Thus, overall, if you can learn to manage yourself, then you can manage anything. So that's the concept behind it. And we have schools reaching out both inside of in Nevada and outside of the state. So it's exciting to see that starting to pick up some momentum. And we're ready to do everything that we're promoting, everything that we've built. We're ready to put it all out to the world.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see where it goes and where it leads. I think you're onto something there.
I appreciate that.
Who is Brandarius Johnson these days?
Brandarius Johnson. That's a powerful question. I've had a few solid people in my life ask me that. And outside of, the speaking, outside of the influencer, the brand, the, awareness, I'm a person that enjoys working out. Love to be at peace. I love being close to water. I like art. I like eating chicken wings. I enjoy just listening to music.
Speaking of music, I understand that you're a big Starlito fan, the rapper. What's your favorite song?
Starlito, that started back when I was at Saddleback in 2011. I like Step Brothers and I like Start. I think it's called Start, where he just talks about like getting started, like not sitting around and waiting for an opportunity to come. Another song I like by him and Kevin Gates is Leash on Life. And it speaks to the effect of bullying and how, bullying leads to mass shootings and stuff like that. It's a powerful storyline and powerful concept. That's one of my favorite songs. That's probably my favorite song by him. It's called Leash on Life.
If I was to go find Brandarius Johnson that was running the streets after everybody went home, that had the negative attitude and was being deviant, and said, Brandarius, this is where you're going to be in 2023, what would you have said?
I would have said, yeah, right, because Brandarius would have said he's going to be in the NFL. You couldn't tell me anything. I'm going to the NFL. It was a blessing. God had other plans, and felt like though I wasn't drafted to the NFL, I was drafted by God, and I'm playing on the most powerful team in the world. And every day we get up and chase His glory, we win the Super Bowl.
And you've mentioned before that things started for you as every day is day one after you lost your friend to suicide. But really, if you look back, when did you really start to change as a person away from that person who was that kid?
That's a powerful question. And I think if I didn't mention it already, I felt like that experience with suicide just kind of helped me identify, what anxiety and depression was, that I had already experienced all of those things. But as far as like changing, I think those changes are happening now. Dealing with, and I say this because when I was playing football and, thought I was going to go to the NFL, I really thought that. And I believe there were some people that believed that me as well. And for the longest, that was my identity, the football player. And long after I played my last down of football, people still would see me, yeah, B, you still playing football? And I'm like, no, I haven't played football in 10 years. But now as a speaker and starting to get, recognized all over the place from my brand and people wearing my shirts all over the place, I think it has the same influence that the NFL would have had on people. So they associate that with fame and wealth. And, it was hard to carry myself as a public figure because I just felt like a normal person, So many people like, yo, B, I'm so inspired by you. People are excited to meet me. And I'm just now being able to accept this calling and step in these shoes and be Brandarius Johnson, the speaker, the influencer, the social entrepreneur. But I also know how to be Brandarius Johnson, the son, the brother, the friend. And it's so weird because I felt like I'm the same person, but I felt like I was also a few different people. And, I had to just learn to grow with that and surround myself with wise counsel, a couple pastors, my branch strategists, therapists, and just be able to go to those people when I have questions or concerns about the engagement and the activity and the new growth in my life. So I think right now I'm like becoming that person, even, having these talks and being able to answer questions without being anxious or being nervous. Like, it's gradually happening as I'm going through it. So just now becoming that.
Well, keep spreading the word. Keep doing positivity. I know you're going to be a mental health influencer for the rest of your life. Thanks for coming on my show and talking. I've appreciated it, and I know you and I will stay in touch.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity, and you keep up the great work as well. It was an honor and pleasure to connect with you, and I look forward to growing further.
Agree. Listeners, go to the show notes to get connected with Brandarius. You can follow me on Instagram at Before the Lights Podcast, and go check out my YouTube channel called The Light. Short inspirational videos to get you on the path to a greater you and a better life. The link is in the show notes. That's it for this episode of Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. Thank you for listening. And until next time, everybody, a salute, a chin chin.